If you're stuck between the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4 and the Garmin Striker 4 and you're like, hey, I'm a little bit confused, well, good news for you. I'm gonna walk you through every single feature and how these two differ so you can make a smart buying decision. Let's hop in. So we have the Garmin Striker 4 on the left, the PiranhaMAX 4 on the right. And first up, let's talk about the thing you're staring at all day long, which is the screen. So let's do a quick measurement. On the PiranhaMAX 4, you're gonna have a 4-inch screen. And on Garmin Striker 4, you're gonna have a 3.5-inch screen. So that's gonna be a difference. If you already know that you want a larger screen, well, the PiranhaMAX 4 is going to beat the Garmin. However, I would watch the rest of this video because there's a lot more features on this guy than there is this guy. So now let's talk about the resolution, right? On the Garmin Striker 4, you're gonna actually get a 480 by 320 resolution, where on the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4, you're gonna get a 480 by 272. So what that means is that all units are 480 pixels wide, but vertically things change, right? So the 480 by 272 means you're gonna have 272 vertical pixels. You're gonna have 320 vertical pixels over here. So that extra 48 vertical pixels is gonna give you roughly 18% more detail from top to bottom on the Garmin Striker 4. So on a 3.5-inch display, you're gonna get, sharper text and menus, cleaner separation between bottom arches and structure, less squish when you look to deeper water, and smoother curves on those fish arches. But is it night and day? No, it's not. Are you likely gonna notice? Probably not, but now you know in the back of your head, one has better resolution than the other. So now let's break down the Sonar, right? The meat and potatoes of these two units. And when we're talking about Sonar, we're talking about how these units see underwater, right? Your beam width, your detail, how clearly they separate fish from anything else that is down there. So first up, let's talk about the Garmin Striker 4. This is a dual beam transducer. You're gonna give the option for a manual 77 kilohertz, a manual 200 kilohertz, and it is CHIRP capable. I think CHIRP stands for like compressed and high intensity radiated pulse or something like that. Essentially, it scans a variety of different frequencies and gives you a more comprehensive reading. But if you manually choose the 77 kilohertz, you're gonna get a wider cone. It's really great for covering more water. That 200 kilohertz is gonna be a more tighter cone, more detailed picture. And that CHIRP, like I just shared, sweeps a range of frequencies, and you're gonna get those cleaner arches, better target separation. So the Humminbird PiranhaMAX is also a dual beam transducer, but you're not gonna get CHIRP. You're only gonna get the option for a 200 kilohertz, which is that standard detail for deeper water, or 455 kilohertz, which is gonna be a high frequency clarity, really in that shallow water. So now let's talk about what those cone angles really mean, right? So Sonar doesn't shoot straight down like a laser, it shoots in a cone. So think of it like a traffic cone under the transducer. And that cone determines how much water you see and how much detail that picture actually is. So in the Garmin Striker 4, right, on that 77 kilohertz, you're gonna get a 45-degree cone. It's really great for finding bait and spread out fish. And when you throttle that over to the 200 kilohertz, you're gonna get a 15-degree narrow cone for that precision detail directly under your vessel. Now for the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4, you have a dual beam transducer, right? Also that 200 kilohertz, you're gonna get a 28-degree, kind of a mid-wide cone angle, good for coverage without being too zoomed out. And then if you throttle that over to the 455-degree kilohertz, you're gonna get even tighter cone at 16 degrees. So better detail on structure, brush, and bottom hugging fish. So now let's talk about the max depth capabilities here. Now when you think about depth range, let's be honest, if you're fishing close to the max depths of these units, you've likely moved far beyond these entry-level units. So when you think of max depth capability, I want you to think of it in terms of sonar strength, right? More depth equals more power equals better performance, like in dirty water and in salt water and in fast moving water and in those deep reservoirs. And so the Garmin Striker 4, this guy right here, it has a max depth of 1,600 feet in freshwater, 750 feet in salt water. So the Garmin has some serious sonar horsepower for an entry-level unit. Now the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4, max depth of 600 feet. So totally fine for lakes and rivers and kayak fishing and tiny boat nation stuff, but not really made for the extreme depth or heavy salt water. So real world scenarios, deep lakes, reservoirs, big waters, Garmin's gonna hold bottom better, show more detail. Salt water or brackish water, Garmin's stronger sonar is gonna cut through the saltwater density more reliably. And those shallow lakes, 5 to 50 feet, both of these units are gonna work great. But if you want the strongest sonar engine overall, Garmin Striker 4. Now let's talk about GPS mapping and navigation. This is where everything really starts to separate these two units. So we're not talking road maps, we're talking marking spots, tracking drifts, logging waypoints, following your path, monitoring your vessel speed. So now let's talk about Garmin Striker 4. Let's talk about GPS, and a big thumbs up there. You're going to get GPS on the Garmin Striker 4. And because you have GPS, you're going to get a variety of other features like waypoints and tracks and speed. Yes, yes, yes. However, on both of these units, you don't get maps, right? And so you're going to be tracking a waypoint on a blank screen. But nonetheless, you can still track waypoints. Now let's move over to the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4. GPS? No. And because it doesn't have GPS, you're not going to be able to track waypoints, tracks. You're not going to be able to track your speed. No mapping whatsoever. So if you want to mark offshore humps, or, know your speed for trolling or whatever, Garmin really is the only choice between these two, because Humminbird is pure sonar. And for some anglers, they want that simplicity, and that's fine. For others, it's a deal breaker. But I am not done. Now let's talk about water temp, power draw, and durability. So both units include a built-in temperature sensor, pretty easy. The power draw on the Garmin Striker 4 is going to be 0.23 amps. The power draw on the Humminbird is going to be 0.18 amps. Humminbird sips a little less power, but that's because it doesn't have GPS on board. And the water rating for both of these are going to be the same with an IPX7, which means rain, splash, a quick dunk if you turtle your kayak or whatever it is, no problem. And also keep in mind, there is no wireless capabilities or SD cards for these units, right? So neither have wireless features, neither have SD card slots, neither have software updates. What you get is what you get, right? It's a closed system, and they both offer 1-year warranties from both companies, both Garmin and Humminbird. All right, so now when it comes to mounting for both of these, for the Garmin Striker 4, I like using this Yak Attack fish finder mount with a round base. Fits perfectly. You can get three screws in there. It comes with the hardware, good to go. When it comes to the Humminbird, you can do the same thing. However, you're going to be able to get 2 screws in there. It'll keep it snug enough. So you're good to go on the Yak Attack. Nice 2 points of articulation there. Now when it comes to powering these bad boys, I like using the Aqua Pro battery kits. This is going to be a 4.4 amp hour, 10 amp hour, and this beefy girl back here is a 20 amp hour. So let me give you some runtime estimates. So for the Garmin Striker 4, on the 4 amp hour battery, it's going to run this thing for like 19 hours before you need to charge it. On the 10 amp hour battery, it's going to run this thing for 43 hours. And of course like 80 hours on the 20 amp hour. Now for the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4, it's going to sip less power at 0.18 amps, and because of that, you're going to get a longer runtime, right? So in that 4.4 amp hour from Aqua, it's going to run this thing for 24 hours. For a 10 amp hour, it's going to run this thing for 55 hours and over 100 hours on the 20 amp hour battery. And if you guys are interested in these, I sell them on my website, Wendell Fishing at Shopify. Aqua gets these out the door really fast, and it also comes with free shipping. So check these out. Either way, plenty of runtime for a full weekend. Now we're down to brass tacks here. Let's talk about the price. Now, I went down on Amazon. That's where I'm pulling my prices from. And of course, those are going to fluctuate, but typically the sales only fluctuate like $15. So right now, the Garmin Striker 4 on Amazon is $137. And the Humminbird PiranhaMAX 4 is $130.04. So you're looking at it as like a $7 spread. So if you've gone through these features, you're like, oh yeah, it's pretty clear who the obvious winner is. And for you, if that answer is Garmin, well, hold on one second. Because Garmin actually makes 4 Garmin Striker 4 units, all with different features that range from $130 to $180. And you're definitely going to want to watch that video before you spend a single dollar. You can check that out right there. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.